Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Let's Play Warframe. I'm your host with the most, as always, Francois878, and today I'd like to talk to you guys about the Warframe panel at PAXEast 2016. I'm going to kind of go over the most important points of the panel, what I thought was the most important, and then I'll just give you my thoughts and general opinions on it, and kind of see where my predictions for the panel overlapped a little bit. The first thing that I want to talk about is the extended track that they played during the trailer. The trailer they played at the beginning of the panel for all the quote-unquote new players in the audience. The footage wasn't anything new or exciting that we haven't seen before, but the extended track that they played in the background was from the second Dream Quest, and it was absolutely incredible. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It's on if you go to the Warframe official YouTube page, they have that trailer up now. They have it uploaded, and you can listen to it. It's absolutely awesome. I've probably listened to it a half a dozen times already. It is absolutely wonderful. But moving right along, the first big thing that they announced was the new frame tentatively dated for Update 19. This new frame, no name as far as I heard. It was to be decided. People were shouting out suggestions, but obviously DE isn't going to pick the name of the frame on the panel. But this new frame is fairy-themed in nature. Lots of like whimsical aspects in the design. Also, very like butterfly-themed, to the point where one of her abilities is going to be razor butterflies, where she like takes razor butterflies off the actual in-game model, off of her body, and uses them like shuriken. I am down to clown. This new frame looks awesome. I'm really excited about it. They also talked about her passive being a sort of fairy dust ability, where when she bullet jumps, she will actually drop like dust on allies and will give them buffs of some sort. I thought that's a really, really cool idea, because in this game you're bullet jumping all the time, but for this passive it really makes you think, well, when and where should I be bullet jumping to maximize the buffs for my allies? Something that I also thought would be cool would be, perhaps depending on, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, it kind of sounds a little bit too much like Equinox, but if she had like a different energy color, or if she used a different ability in conjunction with the passive, that instead of buffing allies, this fairy dust would debuff enemies, like not straight damage like the parkour mods do, like the elemental parkour mods, but just like, oh, armor debuff 10%, or maybe a very short radiation proc where it'll confuse enemies, something like that. I don't know how they would do it. It sounds a little bit too much like Chroma's passive, or like Equinox, where you have two different forms and each ability does something slightly different. Plus, it being a passive, it might be a little bit much for that. That's kind of getting more into the realm of an actual ability. So that might be a little much. As I was like thinking about that as they were talking, I'm like, oh, that would be really cool too. So I'm really looking forward to that. Tentatively, I don't know if they actually said Update 19. We didn't actually see any in-game models. We just saw concept art. So I'm thinking it might not be 19. I'm thinking 19.5 at the earliest, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. The next big thing they revealed is the next Prime is going to be Vauban. I'm very excited about this. Vauban has been one of my favorite frames. I actually haven't played Vauban in a while. I should do that. But it was basically between, we knew the next Prime was going to be male, and the next two frames up to be primed were Vauban and Necros, and Vauban had come out first, so we were, I think as a community, Warframe was pretty much, betting on Vauban, but Necros is very popular too, but I'm hoping that maybe Necros gets a little bit of a rework and a tweak to I guess Necros doesn't really need a tweak. I don't know. Necros is tough. Part of me wants him reworked, part of me doesn't. It's tough. That's a whole nother video. I'm sorry. So, we also saw in the Vauban Prime trailer the 2 weapons that are going to be part of the Prime Access program, the AK Stiletto Primes. Now, in the trailer, it's not explicitly said that it's the AK Stiletto, but due to some data farming, the day after the panel, we have decided, it has been found out that it will be the AK Stiletto Prime as opposed to, let's say, the Vipers or the AK Sumata. I know that kind of disappoints some people. Personally, I've always liked the design of the stilettos more than pretty much any other machine pistol in the game. So I'm personally super fucking excited about this. I know, it's silly. The other weapon we got is the Fagor Prime Hammer. I'm excited about this. I feel like the Fagor is kind of it's a beginner hammer. It's not really a hammer that can, I mean, it may be able to handle mid-game, but it's just, there are so many better heavy weapons out there that the Fagor gets dropped early on. So getting the Fagor Prime, I think, is a great idea, and it looks great. Vauban looks awesome as a Prime. All of the weapons look great. I'm very excited. I'm much happier about the overall designs of these weapons versus the last Prime Access, but again, that's a whole nother video for a whole nother time. After they showed off this trailer, they started talking about some hot topics in the community. They started talking about the, not hot topics, but more of like littler reveals. They talked about the Grenier Coliseum called the Rathum, and how it was going to be possibly worked into syndicates, and how it's going to be a quest to like go through this Coliseum and fight harder and harder enemies and harder champions to eventually get to a boss type enemy, but it would also incorporate some syndicate quests as well, where you'd have some Grenier or some civilians trying to escape to a syndicate, whether that be Steel Meridian or Nether Syndicate, and you would have to rescue them and actually take their place in the Rathum, and how eventually later on, as you rescued more survivors or more captured civilians, that you may turn those civilians into different syndicates depending on where your loyalties are or what the rewards are. In my predictions video, I said I wanted more syndicate quests. I wanted the syndicates flushed out. This wasn't exactly what I was thinking, but I'm happy with this. This is, you know, anything to flush out the syndicates and really get just get more to them, I'm happy with. This, again, wasn't exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking more of like a straightforward thing, but I love this too. This is kind of a multi-purpose, you know, we get this cool new PvE arena style section, as well as the syndicates are getting some backstory too. Not some backstory, rather, but some quest lines. Alright, Sentience, this was the part of the panel that I'm not sure if I was zoning out or if I wasn't, but the sentient stuff, basically they announced that there would be more sentient enemies added, obviously, because right now we only have 2 enemy types of sentience that are combat enemy types, so obviously they need to expand on that. They showed concept art for a big exosuit style sentient, and they also mentioned that you may be able to knock off pieces of this exosuit and use them yourself, like super weapons. And they also mentioned that this might have to do with the focus tree. There was a lot of stuff that they said that didn't really make a lot of sense and sort of contradicted them. I don't know. It wasn't very clear to me. It looked pretty cool. It looked like basically being able to use like big Arcwing weapons, but on a normal level. Kind of not the same thing, but sort of a similar vibe. To use like huge cannons and stuff. I'm cool with it. I think it'll be awesome. I think the sentients definitely need to be expanded on, and being able to rip the enemy apart and use parts against them, I think that's a great idea, and I think that is awesome. The part that like borderline frightened me though is that their incorporation of like focus tree stuff, because I think the focus system in general is still broken as hell, and right now there's just not enough ways to easily earn focus to make it worth it. I think the focus gains right now are so small and so insignificant, and the amount of focus that you need is so high for a lot of those skills that it just isn't worth it. So I hope that if they do decide to make these sentient super weapons somehow incorporated into the focus tree and give the focus tree a purpose, that the focus trees as well as focus gains get a rework. And obviously all that is still in open beta and it's going to get changed. I just hope the changes come before the cool new shit, so we're not trying to grind away at the focus, trying to get all this cool stuff and then just lo and behold a few weeks later get changed. I really hope that that's something they look into. Moving on, they also showed a trailer for a new PvP competitive aspect of the game called Lunaro. They made a joke about modeling it after Rocket League. I'm not totally sure how much of a joke that was, though. But it is going to be like a sports-themed PvP. So if you don't like the player versus player, like combat shooter aspects of the traditional Conclave PvP as is right now, they're going to add more of a sporty, like soccer, football sort of vibe game mode. I think that's going to be fucking awesome. I think that'll be something very interesting. I think that'll, hopefully, if they do it right, I think the Warframe's movement system could be really, really cool with that. And I think that could be a great addition to PvP and really rope in people who are not a big fan of traditional PvP shooters, because I know I'm not in love with the Warframe PvP right now, so we're definitely going to check out Lunaro. After this, they went into Q&A. There wasn't, some questions were good, some questions were bad. I thought I wrote down the questions that I thought were the best. Obviously, the first question was Oberon, is he getting a rework? Yes, at some points. They weren't sure when, though. Obviously, there's a list of people, a list of frames that they're going to look at. Ash Deluxe skin isn't coming yet. Difficulty-based rewards, which I know is a big thing. The devs said that with Update 19 and the map rework that they were going to try and give difficulty, make higher difficulty missions more rewarding. And so, like, if you want to bring the best gear to handle the best enemies, that's going to pay off more than if you're, on, say, Mars or Earth or Venus or something, like the earlier stuff. They also mentioned, based on the question, that more tile sets were coming to kind of freshen up the game a little bit. That was probably one of the biggest complaints that I had early on, is that a lot of the tile sets were exactly the same. More dagger and tonfa stances coming. Someone asked a question about Tenogen, whether or not it was coming to consoles. They said sometime. I don't know what that means. I didn't think that was even something that was possible, but what do I know? Somebody, of course, asked a question about Draco and whether or not they were going to do anything about it. And basically, the devs said, it's that same problem where Draco, everyone does Draco because it's the only level that you can get really good experience on, and it's far and away the best way to do that. So they are really working on, with this Update 19 rework for the map, to make sure that to appropriately reward the player for the difficulty of the level, and really give them some more choices instead of just Draco. Of course, someone mentioned the infested patch growing on the side of your orbiter. They didn't give any spoilers at all for this. I was pretty mad. I was like, I really want to know about that. That was like one of the one things other than like syndicates, sentience, and the shit growing in your ship. That's all I wanted to know about. No spoilers. I was pissed. Somebody mentioned, is there going to be any more lore connections between frames, because the new fairy frame and Oberon, because Oberon, mythologically speaking, is technically the king of all fairies, so they're like, oh, is there going to be a connection? They didn't really mention anything about it. They were like, well, maybe, probably not, though. They mentioned because certain frames are grouped in certain ways depending on themes, according to the art department, that frames outside of their groups aren't typically connected, so I'm like, alright, whatever. And the other question that I thought was pretty interesting was, like, a housing system, like a, basically, like the devs said, like a bat cave type deal, where you can see all your weapons, like, up on a wall, and you can see all your frames, like Iron Man's, like Tony Stark's Iron Man display, all of his Iron Man suits. I thought that would be really, really fucking cool. I don't know how they would do it in, like, an orbiter ship, like, to really make sense, but that is a feature I didn't know I wanted, but now that somebody has mentioned it, I'm like, oh man, that would be fucking awesome to see just all your frames just spread out like that. Absolutely awesome. And that pretty much wraps up the Q&A section of the panel, and the only thing we had left was the big review trailer that was going to be, you know, the end-all, be-all. It was going to be exciting. It was going to be the big reveal for Update 19, and... Wait a minute. Where'd the footage go? What? What's going on? What's wrong? I don't... I'm sorry, guys. Don't worry. There's nothing wrong with the video. I just thought I had to throw in one joke about the Warframe panel ending 2 minutes before the big reveal of the trailer. If you want to check out the final trailer, the reveal for Update 19, it is on the official Warframe YouTube channel. You can go check it out. It shows off the twin queens of the Grineer. Very quickly, we just saw the backs of their heads from like 20 feet away. They're talking about the Tenno and how they've awoken and how we're going to come and get them. Not a whole lot of actual plot. I'm not sure if they're going to be involved in a raid in Update 19, or if they're just going to be involved in a quest line and will be revealed, or if there's going to be a boss battle related to them. We did see a new type of Grineer enemy, though. Big sumo-looking guys with very large spears. I was more excited about the new enemy type, honestly, than the queens. So, but that all said, that was the panel in a sort of concise nutshell. It was a good panel. I was kind of excited for more, though. But thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more Warframe content coming very soon. I'm your host with the most, as always, Francois878, signing off.